thing, but that was awesome. And it's also fun seeing the kids get all excited for school. I know we had the booth at National Night Out, so that was fun doing some beam toss or the little football toss with the kids. My daughter's in cheer, son's in football. So once again, just great to see all the community getting out, chatting, helping with each other. So fun to see, but outside that, no other real comments from my side.
Just hope everybody's enjoying the last little bit of summer that we have before school starts. It's coming up quick. And just to reiterate what Peter said, it's just been fun to kind of see everybody starting to get excited and riled up and stuff. My littlest is in summer school, and that's been quite fun watching those kids, and they're just excited to just be there. So,
Director Carey.
Yeah, I guess first, just want to echo, it's National Night Out, Show and Shine. It was really good. I would love the turnout. Huge thanks to Melanie that made sure that we had a presence in both of those. I really appreciate all the hard work. I want to give a shout out to Councilman Fitzgerald, who is here every single meeting for as long as time allows. Prior to him starting his council meeting, I appreciate the communication and the connection that we have with the city. Also want to thank Councilman Fitzgerald, because he and I talked often about regionalization and the impact regionalization has to Granite. He knows that as a product of this community, as a coach in this community, and others. And I've actually got some things I'm going to share about regionalization and the fight for getting that modified in my legislative report. That if Councilman Fitzgerald's not still here during that time, I'll make sure I circle back with him and the city. But they've been lockstep. The city's written a letter on behalf supporting us, and I really appreciate us as local elected leaders being able to come together in a single voice and speak about the things that we need here in Granite to improve the learning environment. I have heard that we have a tentative agreement with both PSC and GFEA. I'm excited to hear some more information about that I think that we're going to talk about later. It's great. It seems like that's going to be a great way to kind of get the school year going. So a lot of good, interesting things happening as we're rolling to the start of the school year. That's all I've got.
I didn't prepare specific comments, but I did want to recognize the facilities management and Dion Freeman and his team for the work they're doing. I haven't seen them, but I've seen the results of their efforts with the parking lots being repainted, and I'd like to recognize that the air conditioning is working in this building, whereas last time we were in here, I'm pretty sure it was 90 plus degrees. It certainly felt like it. So just recognize that and appreciate their team for the effort that they're putting in to get the schools ready, the classrooms ready, the facilities ready for the students to be there. So thank you for that. All right, next we have district reports. 3A, high school turf replacement, presented by Michael Maynor, and the reports by John Nisley and Michael Maynor. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Eyes on. Can everybody hear me, Kurt? Sorry. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I just kind of wanted to start, before I start this presentation, I wanted you to know that myself, Marshall, Mr. Dion Freeman, Mr. Nicely, and I talked to the board, and also Middleton about, and many other people in the district about the proposal for our field, turf, and track replacement. Me and Marshall have kind of been going back and forth, and I give him a number before you review it. He'll say, "Can you get it any lower?" I'll say, "I'll try." Okay, and then I'll go back, and he'll say, "Can you get it any lower?" And I'll say, "I'll try." So I just want to let you know that these numbers that are presented in front of the board are 100%. I've went back and forth 5 or 6 times with the company, myself and Marshall. It was nice. So here we go. Go out to swipe across. Technology. It's okay. Dealing with adversity every day. All right. So the company that was chosen as a company is called Targeted Sports Company. They actually complete the field turf, and being in sports is a track company that is a subsidiary of Targeted Sports. So this company, these are the numbers from this company as well. So they've given us the best numbers, and it's the companies that I've been working with, and myself as the district representative. So talking about our current field, looking at, I know that the date I gave the district was 2009. Actually, I went back and talked to the person who installed our current track and our current turf. It was actually 2007 that was installed. So it's 15 years old, and the life expectancy of a turf field is 8 to 10 years. So we're actually 5 years over life expectancy. So looking at that is safety. Our field has been recertified every year thanks to our maintenance team, Mr. Dion Freeman, making sure that happens. But this past summer, in the summer, it cannot be recertified anymore. And with recertification, meaning that first we're going to be liable for concussions or any knees or any hips. And I do not want the district to be liable. I do not want to be a part of that. And I know anybody in this room doesn't want to be a part of that. So that's why we're looking at resurfacing the track and the turf. So basically it is maxed out. So I am going to give you kind of like 4 proposals with numbers, but I want to explain what the turf is with and without color. So the field cost for the turf is without color is $526,000 and some change. With color is $571 with some change. And I'll give you examples of both. So as much as no more than $45,000 in difference with or without color. So here's an example of the field without color. Our track, the color is in the same, for the same proposal, our track will get color. So it's different. It's a different texture of what costs. So that's an example of the field without color. So here's an example of the field with color. And that is kind of exorbitant, but it's something that I think that our state and it's a college in our state that have it, and it brings excitement. And I think it's something that we can make a splash with. So that's the example. But can everybody see that? So our track surface, the difference in our track surface is the BSS 200 RE and the BSS 300 RE, and the track cost difference is $100,000 difference, and that's dealing with the surface and the type of materials that's used in that proposal. So both proposals have colored track, but one, the BSS 200 is $277,000 and some change, and the 300 is $376 and some change. So here's an example of the track surface in our current field. This is our current field right now. So they just took that off Google Maps and just put the track around our current field. So if we go with the proposal 1, which is the BSS 200 without color, the total cost of what we as a district will have to pay was around $805,000. And it's an 8-year financing term, but these financing charges are not included. So financing charges are around 7 to 9%. So I just want to let you know that those financing charges are not included in this. So proposal 2 is more exorbitant track, which is $376,000, and plus the field without color, and the total cost would be $902,000 an 8-year financing term would be $112,000. So I did that because I wanted to see all areas of the proposal. And proposal 3 is the the absorbent check with the $376,000 and the fill with color, which is $571,000, which will total cost of $947,000. And with the 8-year term, it's almost $120,000 per year. And project proposal 4 is the track surface cost proposal is the less track, meaning less cost-effective track, it's $277,000, and with the color is $571,000, which will be a total cost of $849,256, which is the 8-year financing term is $106,000. So here's an example of George Fox University with the track and their field. And I want to let you know that the average turf in the country costs between $1 million and $1.5 million. And working with Marshall and squeezing me, we're trying to get it down to probably like below $1 million. So we actually could accomplish that goal. All right, so I kind of use Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington has a red field. They are getting a stadium renovation, and the people come because they want to see what they have to offer about the field. The field is the attraction. It's it's really big, and people. It was voted as one of the most unique fields in the country. And I think for us growing, and granted, it will definitely be something that if we have that type of field, it'll be something that brings an attraction to our community. All right, so the recommended proposal that recommended from Mr. Maynard and high school staff, it will be the BSS 200 track and the field with color. So that will keep us around below $1 million before financing, and that would give us the kind of the best of both worlds as far as the what we can do for staying within the budget. And currently, if you look at that picture right now, that's our field currently right now, and the color of our track. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the track colors, is the difference between the two just colors, or is there like?
It's a different, like, it's a surface material, and it's
There
more or
any-
less like weathering, and it's without smell. So if anybody know what a new track
Yeah.
Smells like, it comes off of the smell for a couple of years.
Okay.
So as far as the 200 versus 300, the BSS are 200, yeah, the 200 versus 300, will one last longer than the other?
Yeah, with the contract there, they pretty much said they'll last the same. That was more or less the surface, because I asked that because I was trying to prepare myself for the question. All I got was, and I gave you the project description, all I got was, it was kind of like whether it was embedded and it was not. It was like expectancy was the same between the two. I was ready for that. I will dig deeper though.
But the 200 smells worse for a couple of years, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You get the track smell?
Yeah.
Like how?
If you look at our track right now, you can see our track is kind of fading in certain areas.
Yeah.
If you look at this picture here, it's kind of like over there. It is, you can start seeing the asphalt that our track have that's coming up. So I don't know I'm assuming the track was put in at the same time.
All right, and then I had one other question. What are you looking for tonight?
I just wanted to present. I'm not looking for an answer. I just wanted to present, but I know that we are trying to get
On the schedule.
on the schedule in November. This is something that a project needs to start
As soon as football's over.
soon as football.
Okay. The reason I ask is because, I mean, this is a pretty big decision for the community.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a way we could even like pull the community, see what they want to do.
I'm willing to.
I mean, I don't know if you guys are thinking the same thing, but I mean, it's a big deal for a lot of different people.
I'm willing to survey the community. If y'all would do it.
I don't know if the board's looking at that, but it was just a thought I had is see what people want. That was my question. That's it.
You have questions?
Peter's got some, let's let him go.
Peter?
Yeah. So I think a few people already touched on the difference between the 200 and the 300. Just before, it sounds like we're not making a decision or anything tonight, but just before that, I'd like to just make sure that we know the difference because, yeah, I mean, if it's stinky for a little bit longer, then I'll save $100,000 for that. But right, if it's going to give us an additional 5 years, then that warrants a different discussion. So we'd have more details around that. And then, yeah, the color piece, I would be interested for a little bit more feedback, obviously from the board's opinion, but then, yeah, possibly the community as well, because while it is exciting, it looks like an additional $50,000 or $60,000, and the excitement is great, but do we recoup the cost because of the excitement? With us trying to keep within that 5%, that's a little bit of a concern from my end. But once again, we can evaluate how we would make that decision.
So I just, oh, sorry, Peter, do you have any other questions?
No,
Okay,
that's it.
thank you. So what do we have on the track now, 200 or 300?
And that's a question I will ask, because it's the same person who put the field in. Now I can call him and ask him.
Yeah, because I've walked a lot of miles on that track. So I'm pretty familiar with where it's coming apart and where it's changing colors and where the low spots are and the high spots. Also, I thought I heard you say that it's not being certified for this fall.
No, it did get certified.
Oh, it
This
did
summer.
get
It's the
certified.
last certification.
Okay, so we don't have a risk with playing on it this year.
No, we got it certified.
Okay.
And we probably start summer.
Okay. I guess I'm glad I misunderstood. And then, so I think I heard the answer when Director Butler asked, but so we're not asking for this to start a project even until November,
So
but are we really going to start a project in the rainy season in Washington?
I've asked that question like 10 times, and the question was yes. I can use another school that's close to us, which is Solon, and they did it and they're finished. They started in January and finished in May.
Okay,
So they had to like cancel all their track meets because they started so late.
so if we started in November,
November will be done right at spring season start.
okay. Otherwise, I mean, do we have a plan B? Like if too many people take time off at Thanksgiving, do we have a
We give a
scheduled plan B?
Yes.
Like, is High Jewel like certified for track?
No,
Okay, I thought,
High Jewel is not certified for track.
because I run that track and
Yeah, oh, okay.
I thought of another question if I could jump in. Just another option I was thinking about. One of the things I love about the color is the Tigers and the Granite Falls in the end zone.
Mhm.
What's the cost if we do that to the non-color field? Can we just do the end zone in color?
The two end zones,
Yeah.
I got with color and without color, and they added the two end zones, and I could see that projection, but I didn't think it was no different.
Okay, I'm just curious. Another option.
Because they gave us 5 different options,
Okay.
but the one with both of them with color was 44,000.
Okay, so
But
not much.
the end zone is not much difference.
Any board, any other questions?
Black options.
I've got some questions. So, I guess, when do you, well, let me start here. Are these firm proposals or are they tentative at this point?
Oh, no, these are pretty firm.
Okay, so when do you expect to come back to the board with a recommendation? Or with a formal, we want you to vote on it? Next board meeting. Okay. Marshall, how much money I imagine this can come out of capital projects? So is this built into the budget right now?
For this year, well, we did it in, so there's the possibility of doing it in November, or there's a possibility if that slipped, doing it over the summer, which would also be okay. But there is money in capital projects for this.
Okay. So we won't have to do a budget revision or anything like that if we did that.
And when I was working with Mr. Maynor, I was hoping to get our annual payment at 125 or lower. So that was the number that I felt okay with.
Okay. So just for anyone that's listening, that's like, oh God, how are they going to do capital projects? Is the fund that we can do renovations, replacements. It's not the general fund. It's not where we pay teachers out of. It's not where we pay the lights out of or anything like that. It's a separate fund that we have to allow us to be able to do stuff like this. So I guess I just want to assure someone that's listening in right now that this isn't impacting the learning environment per se. Go ahead, Marshall.
I will add one thing to this. So, our capital projects levy has 4-year voter approval right now. So this would be an 8-year project. So it'd be counting on the levy being renewed again. Or we'd have to, if it didn't get renewed in 4 years, we'd have to do the last 4 years out of the general fund.
Thank you for saying that. So that's an important piece of the puzzle that I guess I want to make sure that people know. So so that's part of the voter approved levy. Whenever I see financing, the first question I ask is, what's the interest rate? What's the interest rate for 8 years?
The company said somewhere in the 7 to 9%.
Okay. Is that pretty typical? Is there other financing options that we can look at? Is there, I mean, we're paying for it via bonds, right? And bonds have a certain interest rate
So
on.
we're paying for it via, we're using our tax levy dollars to pay for it. And so it's like financing a car basically, or a swimming pool or whatever. There's an 8-year term. It's a 7 to 9%. We could certainly shop the interest rate with other lenders and see what they would do for us.
Yeah, I mean, I know interest rate, it's a bad time right now to finance something. So I guess that plays into at least in my conversation or in my thoughts of, okay, is now the time to do that? Certainly backed up against your point, Mr. Maynor, and thank you for making it that it's this year and it's no other year, and we won't get it next year. We certainly don't want to be in the same situation as Sultan, because I heard that they had to immediately shut down and there was a big impact. And there's actually a large conversation related to this in the Sultan community with kind of the last minute having to do it and stuff. So, so I guess I just want to be clear. So when you guys come back, is that information going to be there of here's the interest rate? We shopped it around. Here's the best thing that we can do. Here's the difference between the 200 and 300, which sounds like it is in there. Sounds like maybe even that we want to have some discussion related to community input, which I certainly second Director Butler's vision on that. It's their money we're spending. So I definitely think that they should have, the community as a whole should have some sort of voice in that. Or do you guys, can you think you'd really put that together in 2 weeks?
Yes, I can send out create the survey and send it out. Microsoft Forms.
Okay.
I think one of the nice things is it's football season just kicked off, the practice just started. So there's probably a lot of interest. If you start sending out those kind of messages right now, you'll probably get a lot of community input.
Yeah, and they just seen the community is the first time they've seen the two fields. So.
Got it. And I mean, wouldn't it be, I mean, we want students to obviously have a say too. So do you think you can adequately get it out to students in that time too? Okay. And then just the other thing I looked up just out of curiosity. So Sultan, their field replacement was $453,503. Ours is about a little over $100,000 more. They're not doing their track. But this is pretty recent. They started in April. They're going to end in, they just recently ended. Yeah. So why is ours so much more expensive than Sultan?
I'm not sure because I'm using the same company as well.
I guess, so is that a question that we can ask them? I mean, what makes ours $100,000 more than Sultan?
I would say a year difference. I mean, look at everything else. Everything's more expensive.
Well, they financed it in 2022.
That's a good question.
Yeah, they shut the field down. Yeah, end of March. Yeah. So just a question. I'd love to get some input on that. So does that per your cost, does that include that finance cost too?
That per year cost does not include the finance.
Okay, so that's a significant difference too. So I want to know, well, I'm just giving you an input for what you need to give to me for me to say, yes, do this. I need to know my costs, our costs. Total, what are you asking a year? I want to reconcile that with the capital fund budget. I want to see where that is. We need to have a conversation related to all of the other things, the BLRB. And Dr. Middleton, stop me if I'm off track here, but you know my feelings about money. So I just want to make sure that we make intelligent purchases at the best right time with the correct amount of information that we have at the time. So I guess what I'm expressing is I need significantly more information before I'd feel comfortable with this. Dr. M.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Maynor has some homework to do for the board to complete, and he can come back with those answers to Marshall, and we can come back to the board. I will say that Field Turf is the best company, probably the better product. There are variations of turf, and I just know that when we were looking at different options in Montana, Field Turf was by far the better product.
Okay. And I guess let me just make it clear, because I didn't say it, and thank you for kind of jogging I'm by no means saying that we don't need it. I've been on the field. I know the issues. I've spoke with coaches that have concerns about it. I even think last year there was some hubbub, like we didn't think we'd be able to get it certified. Like I'm not coming at this like, oh, we don't need this. It's a need, but we need to be good stewards of public money. So it's my job to ask the tough questions. And so that's my goal here. Not to necessarily poo-poo the idea.
No, not a problem. We have to be fiscally responsible.
Absolutely. And I'm just worried, my largest concern as we sit right now, just being 100%, is how this impacts all of the other stuff that we need to do that we already feel like just at a cerebral level, that once we get that report from BLRB, that there's going to be significant items on there that we can't afford if we didn't do this and spend everything that we had in capital projects right now. And we're going to have to get really, good about prioritizing. And that's one of the things BLRB is going to help us do is, spend money smartly. So I guess I just need, I don't know, Dr. M, if that's a side conversation or if that's a conversation we can have aligned with this. I guess I just want to feel comfortable that I'm not shooting myself in the foot. And it's like, oh, I would love to have replaced that boiler, but we just don't have the money for it now, if you get what I'm saying.
I do, and I think a conversation with BLRB, I know that they want to meet with that executive board here or committee here rather shortly. So try and do that in conjunction with the work that Mr. Maynor will be doing.
The last thing I have is just, is there any thought or any discussion, Mr. Maynor, on this is the public's field, the public needs access to it, it's their money. But I have known that we've dealt with some vandalism issues on the field. I mean, I was there personally cleaning up fireworks past July because people were shooting fireworks off on the field, burn spots everywhere. Is there anything that you think, making this type of financial commitment that we can do? I don't know, kind of align with what we're asking about the difference in the track, right? Is there something that, maybe you spend a little bit more money, but hey, it's more robust against that type of thing. Or, hey, we're going to, I don't know, I don't think cameras are the solution, but, here's my thoughts to make sure that field looks nice for at least, as long as we've had it, this existing field.
To respond to your question, I've been here a little over a year, and it's been, one, we do have cameras on the field already. Two, I've been here looking at, I have access to the cameras and I've seen people on the field on Saturday, Sunday nights, 10 at night. People walk their dog on the field, people let their dog use on the field. People have no respect for our school facilities, especially, I'm just talking about every building. Our high school is a regional campus and it's not, so people feel that since it's our community, it's our school, it is our community, our school, but they do not take care of it very well. And that's not all the community, that's community members, but going back to the field, my recommendation is that once we make this type of investment, we need to lock the field up and we can use hydro as the activity. And I know that, there's a lot of houses that's close to the high school, but it's been a problem with vandalism, writing on the walls at night. There's cars driving, going in the back past the football field behind maintenance and going around. We actually need to do a better job as just tightening our systems up with making sure our field is locked. Because we're taking advantage, our community is taking advantage.
So I appreciate your candor there. I don't know if I'd have to noodle on that. I don't know if I could feel good locking up the field because again, it's their money, it's their field, right? But we're stewards of said money and said field. So, but I definitely maybe that even speaks to more of us taking just a beat and maybe having some sort of marketing campaign. Director Ledoux, one of the things I like about him and some of the things that he says is that about communication and involving stakeholders and really getting out in front. So maybe taking a little bit of time and like saying, as part of this saying, hey, we're spending a ton of your money on this thing.
Yeah.
Look how nice it's going to look. Help us, right? Aren't you excited about this new thing? Look at the price tag of this new thing.
Oh, we can have closing hours, and we can have open and closing hours. 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., everything's locked down.
Right.
I think if we can meet the community halfway, at 10 o'clock, everything's closed down. I was gonna close it, make sure everything's locked and closed. I know that our facilities supervisor or our facilities director and myself get very frustrated because we're the ones, he'll see it first or I'll see it first and we have to report on it. And then it's how much does that cost?
Right.
Yes, we had a break-in over the summer that cost over $20,000 and it was our kids, our community that.
Yeah. I know I've taken a lot of time, Director Ledoux. I know has a question. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. So really quick too. So on this, and this could be something that's in an email or presented later, because I'm sure that there was a lot of thought and research that went into this, but looking into this, I'm always trying to figure out the relative nature of the proposal, right? So we're obviously looking at a brand new field. I don't know if this is best of the best. I don't know if this is a minimum thing that we're doing. I'm just wondering how much, when we're looking at recertification, is the only option for recertification complete replacement, or is there's patching options that could give the field another 5 to 10 years of use, but that would only be $200,000, or, just making sure that we're exploring all avenues so that once again, we don't, 2 years down the road, go back and say, oh, wow, we could have done this a lot cheaper. And to Carl's point, after the facility stuff starts coming in, we just want to make sure we're not shooting ourselves in the foot and exploring all options.
277.
Sorry about that. Were you able to catch all that?
I did, but was that a question or were you?
Yeah. The question was, is the recertification, does that have to be a full replacement? And how many options outside of just fully replacing the field, the rip and replace, have been explored upon?
And since I've started this work, I believe that we have explored all options, but I can go back and make sure that I'm totally 100% sure that we've explored all options.
Yeah, and I think just to tag on, I can jump in because I know you've got a question too, Chair. And I'm sure you have, and I think just bringing us up to speed, right? And again, bringing us up to speed is also bringing the community up to speed. Like, hey, this money is absolutely necessary to spend because look at this, there's no great other options, right? I mean, we're kind of back into a corner in there. I think that'll just help us. Again, when we make commitments for so much money, know that we're making the right commitments. Go ahead.
No, actually, I just was before going to say, I saw Peter's hand raised. I didn't have another thing. But I do like the idea as I'm kind of building on what I think both Peter and Carl are saying is we've asked a lot of questions here. And I bet the community has, it's probably a fraction of the questions the community has, but maybe compiling a Q&A because it is a large investment. And if it were an 8-year commitment, we're asking the community to sort of tell us now, would you be willing to support this in the next levy vote as well, right? So we want to get all the communication out. So maybe just preparing a full kind of Q&A communication of all the answers that you find so that we can share it with the community as well as us, or some version of that. I don't know what it looks like, but Dr. Middleton, I see your hand is up.
The other thing I would add is while we're talking about the turf itself, the other factor is schools are required to do a GMAX test, and that really talks about the subsurface. And so I think Mr. Maynard could come back with some of the results from recent GMAX tests to see why it's such a concern, not just the fabric, the subsurface.
Just one last question. So is there, obviously with the time frame of next year is the stop and when they can do it, totally get that. But if it didn't happen next board meeting, does that, like, let's say we have another discussion and then the board after that, maybe we vote on it. Does that kill the time frame, or is it really, hey, we need to act on this? Just out of curiosity.
I'll make the call tomorrow
Okay.
and deal with that resources and send it out so you guys know.
Right.
What's the stop it.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're not also inadvertently shooting ourselves in the foot. And it's like, oh, well, now we've got an issue because we talked too long. I mean,
No, we have to be very thorough. This project is something that moves like took everybody, all hands on deck. So thank you for inviting me.
yeah, no worries.
Any other questions, board? Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Moving on. 3B, business report prepared by Marshall Cruz.
And unless you guys have a overwhelming amount of questions, I'll just stand here and see if you guys have any questions. Not really anything to point out. We're still in the negative through June. We'll be better in July. We're going to get about $5 million in revenue in August. So August will be the pull us out of the whole month like it usually is. Enrollment, I've been sending you guys enrollment updates every Friday. Hope those are helpful to kind of track what's going on.
So, board, any questions for Marshall?
Yeah.
Peter, go ahead.
Yeah. So just for clarity's sake, the bullet points in here say decreasing projected year-end fund balance to 1.1 due to increased staffing costs, anticipating that will fall short of meeting the minimum 5%. Maybe I'm missing, because I'm seeing 3.1. So did we say we wanted it at 5 and now we're projecting to 3.1, or is that once we have the July revenue come in, we'll be back up much closer than 3.1 to the 5%?
No, we're going to fall. We had a budget built that got us to 5% this year, but because of the costs of coming back to school after being gone for almost 2 years, we had to spend more than we thought. So we're going to probably end the year at about a 3% fund balance, but then we had to start with that 3% fund balance to build it up to 5% for next year. And we have a solid budget for next year that gets us there, and we're working with all the schools just to ensure that we stay on budget next year. And we'll be we'll be very hands-on with the schools to ensure that they are tracking to the budget numbers.
I got some questions, but I don't want to jump in. So if someone else has something, I can wait. Okay. I should have asked you. I'm
Nope,
sorry. Is
you're
that
fine.
okay?
Yeah, sorry.
So just reconciling our proposed budget numbers, kind of the enrollment that you're tracking. Thank you so much for that. I really like kind of seeing the way that that goes. Are there any concerns, any things that are going to be a budget impact, a budget revision, any concerns about staffing levels, anything that you're like, hey, there's kind of this, I know we had a good conversation about kindergarten before. It's still looking like that's tracking really significantly low than, than what we expected, sorry. I guess just to bring everyone, if anyone's listening up to speed, we have budget of 170 and we're right around, let's call it 130 or so right now. So are you more comfortable with that? I guess let's first take kindergarten. How are you feeling about kindergarten?
We intentionally did not fill 2 elementary positions, teaching positions, so we'd have a buffer if kindergarten didn't come in at the level that we wanted it to. So right now, it's actually been creeping up this week. So we get the report tomorrow. I think it's going to be at like 138. My thoughts are that it'll probably end up somewhere in the mid 140s by the time it opens. So it'd be about 25, maybe below budget. So we do have open positions that. So we had a full staff of kindergarten teachers. We had 8 of them. Nobody left this year, but we had 2 third-grade teachers leave and a elementary specialist leave. So we have 3 elementary level positions open, and if things remain the way they are, that 2 kindergarten teachers would transfer up into 3rd grade.
Okay. So we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exactly what I wanted to lean in on. I appreciate you saying that. And then the other is, I see a year-end projected of 150 on capital projects. I think I answered my question, but if we did the turf, we wouldn't have to make the first payment until the end of the year, which will have a higher theoretically have a higher capital projects budget.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably end a little closer to 200 this year, but we get our levy money will come in October. So, when October comes, capital projects fund will have $350,000 in it at that point, or I'm sorry, $550,000 in it. So, and then when the April levy money comes, that'll be another $400,000. So timing will be fine.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Sorry. Stop jumping in.
All right, board, any other questions?
Just a comment. I really appreciate the enrollment numbers, keeping us abreast. I think that's a great, move on your part. Thank you.
Can I add one thing about enrollment? This time of the year, we generally just see the kids that are coming into our district, the new kids arriving in our district. We don't really see the kids that have left our district, mainly because coming into our district is like an active thing that parents do. They get here, they want to enroll their kids. If they've left to another district or moved out of state, we often don't get those drop numbers until much later in the process. So maybe even a lot of times we're calling families on the first day of school to say, and they say, oh, sorry, we left the state, or oh, sorry, we're in Wenatchee now, or whatever. So we tend to about September 1st, we'll hit this peak enrollment number, which honestly could be somewhere around 2,300 this year. And then by the first count, that number could drop 10 or 15% because the coming ins happen before the going outs.
All right. Perfect.
One more quick question. I remember I was going to ask safety net. I thought, weren't we going to try to go back and get some more money or like protests and things?
I think we all have so we got $7,000 more, but I think we all have a bit of a difference in opinion of what constitutes direct services. And one of the things we got dinged on was we have what are they called, parent-teacher conference days, and the student isn't getting direct services, well, we can't claim that as the salary that that teacher made that day or the para made that day can't go against the cost of the student because they weren't receiving direct services. So I think we will forever disagree that, the teacher is providing feedback to the parent and feedback to other parents. And these conference days are a necessity, but we get dinged for it not being direct services to the student.
So that's the outstanding stuff. So there's no more outstanding claims that we have,
We'll get paid.
other than the $7,000 that we got.
Part of it we'll receive at the end of August, and the federal portion of it we'll receive in September, but it'll be posted to August.
Great. Any other questions, board? Thank you. Next, 3C Superintendent Report by Dr. Middleton.
There we go. Just gonna get this to the start.
Happy birthday, Michael. Thank you.
I appreciate your patience today with my remote standing. I just didn't think you would want my germs there tonight. So thank you. Really, my report centers around our safety updates for the 2022-23 school year. Dion Freeman and I attended the safety conference in July. That was put on by the School Safety Advocacy Council. And really, we walked away with a number of ideas and just want to share some of the takeaways from that conference. It was very interesting that every keynote speaker had a comment about the vendors. And that comment was, yes, there are some great products over there. You can go to the vendor hall and you could probably spend a whole lot of money on things. But it really comes down to really grabbing the low-hanging fruit. And so I can't emphasize the number of, again, speakers that said, when you lock your exterior doors and you lock your classroom doors, you establish a see something, say something online tip source, and you develop a good relationship with law enforcement now, before, and not during a threat. Just that takes care of so many of the potential threats that could be out there. The executive director, Curtis Lavarello, he shared during his keynote speech that when there's an incident, and certainly the discussion about Uvalde was on everybody's mind, he has always asked this question: what's the number one thing that schools can do to prevent and prepare for a school tragedy? And it comes down to knowing our students, being present with our students, and just the research that has been done on those who've been an active threat, students that have had an active threat. And actually, one thing I didn't realize, that active threats are much more common in a commercial setting than even an educational setting. But regardless, almost universally, the intent and the plans are typically shared before the actual event. So that goes back to that see something, say something aspect, and that he's.
You disappeared, Dr. M, FYI.
Is he there?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Your voice dropped out.
Did it drop off back here?
Yeah, it was well, you were
See
just mentioning,
something.
see something, say something.
Okay. So my point is that last issue of, so often those who are involved in an active threat,
It drops off on exactly the same spots.
Yeah.
It's an important message. We know what it
okay. I'll move on. How's that?
is.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that Mr. Lavarello stated, and really this has to be our theme for the year, is never allow inconvenience to get in the way of school safety.
Lost you again.
How's that?
You're back, yeah.
Okay. I think you get that point, and that has to be our theme going into the school year. Inconvenience can't get in the way, and that safety is everybody's job. One thing he shared was his company does a lot of school safety.
You're gone again.
I wonder if he's using Bluetooth, like Bluetooth.
Might be because he's sharing and talking.
Might be because he's at his house and has terrible internet.
And it could be that, yes.
And there's trees.
He's still with us.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's still sharing.
Well, that could be frozen, I guess, but yeah.
Still can't hear you in case you're talking to yourself.
Can you hear us? Maybe we'll just read these top 10 problems ourselves. Oh,
Yep, he's gone.
He's gone.
I'm back now, I think, right?
there
Yes,
you are.
there you are, yes.
You are back.
Yep. Let's try this. All right, still present with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you can see the trouble areas, and you can see how many of those are such low hanging fruit that Dion and I are already starting to work on. And this, my last slide, I believe, is we've been working with Chief Dalton and the Snohomish Sheriff's Department in the last, well, since coming back from that conference. And we've reestablished our monthly meetings with the city and county agencies. So the city office, fire, police, and school. Chief Dalton and the Snohomish County Sheriff Department and admin team met during our retreat to begin discussions on drills and protocols. They reiterated that if and when there is ever a threat, they will go directly to the threat. And that was a common theme throughout the conference. They looked at Uvalde and I know you know the news, and they waited and waited, over an hour before going in. They have assured us that if there is an active threat, they will go directly to the threat. In talking with them, they both at the national level and then locally with Chief Dalton, we really need to revisit our run, hide, fight protocols that match the student's age and level of maturity. They are going to be much more involved with our drills. And currently, I know that either the chief or someone from the sheriff's department is working with Dion and principals and going and looking at our campuses to do an assessment. And really, this has just come to the top of my priority. And my intent is to bring you safety information each board meeting, so that we need to, the number one thing parents want, yes, they want great education, but
Lost you.
any questions or comments?
We lost you for a little bit there, but I think you got the gist of your last point.
Okay.
Right, board, any questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Hey, Dr. M, you can still hear us, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for that information. I really appreciate it. One of the things that I didn't see on that last slide is the See Something, Say Something online program. So is there a format for that? Are we going to do that? What does that look like? Is that something you're planning on doing?
That is already in place, and I might ask Melanie to share a little bit about that because she has made that an active link, and it's actually been an active link all along, but I think it's very easy to get to.
So we have on the website, on the front page, there's under headlines, there's our See Something, Say Something. We've blasted that out. We'll continue to blast it out, but it's an anonymous tip report line that the district has. Students, community parents, they can download the app on the phone. It literally would take a student 3 seconds to report something if they see it. They can choose to be identified or they can choose to be anonymous, whoever reports. We've had people report, you know, different concerns, and it can be anywhere from vandalism to something of this extreme intent. So we've got little cards made up at the buildings. We dropped those off close to the end of the school year, but it's because it's something we're really pushing. This year, we want the kids to know about it. There'll be, I mean, there's flyers we had printed up. The cards are nice because they can kind of just pass them, you know, put them on the lunch tables, put them wherever. So it's really easy to access.
So there's one here and there's a link on the website and there's an actual app that you can download on your phone. Is there, and it sounds like we're doing a ton of good communication on that and flyers and stuff like that. Is there a way kind of in those beginning days as kids are, you know, is going through orientation and learning about syllabus and stuff like that? Is there a way, Dr. M, that you could ask that, you know, I guess the principals to have the teachers like literally like say, hey, pull out your phone, go here, download this app. Here's how to access, like give a walkthrough of that in kind of those beginning days of classroom?
Yes, absolutely. That's possible.
Okay, I just, you know, at least that way we can like take like a very active role in it.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing was I didn't see in there kind of the parent patrol that we talked about, because I mean, the intent of that is to really be another, as we've talked about a number of times, be another set of eyes and ears and potentially maybe a deterrent or an obstacle, I guess is probably a deterrent and an obstacle, right? So I guess I just don't want us to lose focus on that. Obviously, there's a lot going on. We're focused on getting school going, but I would like to make sure that that's a focus for us moving forward. Obviously, if the board and everyone agrees that that's where we want to go, this certainly isn't Carl's district, but you know, just as a note.
That's right. And I did not spell that out specifically, but under that general category of how important it is to have adult supervision, I sort of, in my mind, wrap that in there. So that's still very much on my mind, Director Carey.
Okay, perfect.
Board, any other questions? So I just had one thing. I think that Carl and I are thinking along the same lines, because I wrote myself a note for the See Something, Say Something at the beginning of the year assemblies that the schools do. Maybe to just make that a talking point so that they know that it's, you know, that all the students are hearing it. We're not just hoping that the individual classrooms are going to follow through, so that they all at least hear it once, and hopefully more than that on how to do that. The other thought I had, and I'd be interested to know what you think, but for the 10 problem areas that you brought back from the conference, I'm curious just to have an update on what we're doing in our district, and maybe that's something we can share at some point with the community on. These are the top 10 challenges in school safety, and this is how we're addressing them. That's just a thought.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yep.
Communication to share out, like, this is the good that we're doing. This is the focus we've put on it, so that it's clear that we went, we learned, we came back, and we're taking action, and we're communicating that action out.
Right.
Thank you. Appreciate your report.
Just one more, if that I just, as you were talking, Melanie, so those reports from the app or from the website, who do those go to?
From the See Something, Say Something, all the cabinet members have access to that.
So does it automatically like email, like, hey, there's.
It sends an email immediately, and then the principals also, if it's building, if they select a building, when they're reporting, it will also go to them.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had some coverage. People are on vacation or not there that day and stuff like that. It sounds like we do. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Middleton. 3D board reports, WIAA. Director Ledoux.
Yep, let me just get off mute here. Okay. As far as WIA, no huge updates here. Just in terms of sports, so practices are beginning for fall sports. Excited to see the field presentation from Mr. Maynor. That was exciting to see there. One note that I do have just with regard to sports in general, parents, this is kind of my public outcry here, or public request is, please volunteer if possible. Our district and the kids heavily rely on help, and especially with things really opening and ramping back up. Let's try our best to get back in the spirit of being there, being present, helping, pack lunches or dinners for, the football players as they're traveling over to Leavenworth or Friday Harbor or wherever that it may be, or, helping out with, with all the different teams that are going to be out there. So that's just my request is, if you have some free time, jump on out there. It's a fun time. So.
Any questions for Director Ledoux? Legislative report.
Yeah, thank you, Board Chair. So I think we all got a copy of this report. It's called the K-12 Basic Education Compensation Advisory Committee. So essentially what that is legislation passed back in 2021, which required OSPI to basically convene a committee that is going to develop recommendations to the governor and the legislature that supports recruiting and retaining multicultural, multilingual educator workforce, as well as address some of the funding inequities that we see through a various number of reasons. This report is then going to be officially presented to the governor and the fiscal committees on September 30th. I actually attended a couple of these meetings and gave some public comment related to regionalization, and not sound like broken record, but the real life significant impact the Grand Falls experiences by being assigned such a low regionalization comparative to other school districts in our area, and the challenges that places on us to provide a wage that attracts and retains good teachers, that allows services for students, that allows us to be able to provide curriculum and extracurricular things that allow students to be able to compete not only locally but nationally, as well as doesn't put an undue burden on our taxpayers. So in this report, there's a lot of really good recommendations to the governor. And I just want to highlight a couple of them because this report, while all of this, some of this, or none of this could actually make it to law, there's a couple of areas that are really good. And I think we as a board and we as a community really need to get in front of this and highly speak very heavily to our legislators and to anyone of influence that they need to enact. I think 2 or 3, I would love all of it, but 2 or 3 things would be a huge benefit for us in the district. I'll start with my favorite topic, which is regionalization. So this report wants to change the regionalization And so regionalization is the impact of salary to a model that is more metropolitan and based and has statistical areas. So essentially what that would do for Granite is allow us to move from a 12% regionalization now to either an 18 or 20% regionalization factor if this was enacted. One of the things that I really like that they say here is that the new regionalization factors largely address the inequities that were created during the transition to the current regionalization model by using the metropolitan and non-metropolitan labor market data by region and ensuring that neighborhood districts receive no greater than a 2% difference in regionalization. Just to pause there, the current law says no greater than a 6% regionalization. But as I've talked a number of times, that is based upon 6, 12, and 18% regionalization, and not the realization that some districts, specifically 2 districts in our area, actually 3 districts in our area, get a 24% regionalization factor, and we're directly adjacent to them. So it goes on to say, districts will continue to be able to address different costs of living due to housing, but also remain competitive for educators in a region and across the state. What I like about that is, make no bones about it, we compete against every surrounding district in this area for teachers. And to a certain extent for students. And right now, as we all know, based upon how much of our general fund goes to salary and benefits, it is challenging to compete, especially when someone can take a drive 10 minutes down the road and make $10,000 more a year. So after analyzing and discussing a variety of models to address cost of living and hedonic wages, the committee felt strongly that regional labor market best met the needs of school districts to attract and retain a quality workforce within its geographical area. And I say absolutely, I agree 190%. That in and of itself would be a huge, huge impact for us to the positive if we were able to, again, convince our legislators and the legislature in whole to make the adjustments. One of also their top recommendations was an increase of the state salary allocations for K-12 based on comparable job classifications in the state. And so they recommended some specific increases in funding, which again would be wonderful because that would be that we would provide, the state would provide us additional funding to be able to pay for these adjustments. One of the things that I really, really, really like is bonuses for school staff. They are proposing to provide an initial hiring and ongoing retention bonus to all school-based staff who work at rural schools and rural state tribal education compact schools. Now, they don't necessarily define what they consider to be a rural school, but as we are considered a small school district. There's certainly micro districts and districts smaller than us. But even if this didn't have natural impact for us, for those smaller districts, this would be huge. We had a conversation about special education. The recommendation was to provide a special education hiring and retention bonus grant that provides funding for an initial hiring bonus and ongoing retention bonuses at the completion of every 3 years of service, provided the employee remains in a special education role. We've all talked about the challenges that it is to get people in SPED, to keep them there, to really be able to recruit and retain them. That would be a huge bonus, and they're talking about bonuses anywhere in the neck of the woods of 10 to 15,000. The last thing, again, there's a lot of really good things, so I'm just hitting on the top ones. They recommend expansion of an alternate route to grow your own programs, where you can basically take non-certificated classified staff and grow them and provide programs to be able to help grow them into teachers. That would have offsets with loans and stuff like that. And one of the things that they say, and I couldn't agree more, they say classified employees currently working within the school system should be provided an alternate route to certification. This target group has historically been more diverse and reflective of the student population within each school district. The committee recommends that the state fund at least one staff position in each educational service district that would lead an alternative route program emphasizing a more multicultural, multilingual workforce. A lot of great stuff there. So hopefully you guys are asking right now is, okay, Carl, how do we do this? So I reached out to Marissa Rathbone, who is the Director of Strategic Advocacy and it kind of leads the legislative group. And I said, Marissa, we've got a short time. We really need to get out in front of this. What do you recommend? And so I would love to kind of get a consensus from the board, obviously through Dr. Ram to kind of have us put this together so that we've got some talking points and some stuff to send out to our legislators. One of the things that she recommends is a staff turnover rate to local districts due to regionalization factors kind of over the 4 to 6 years. Salary differences based on our salaries versus other local school districts, which I know we've talked about quite a bit. Stories of teachers having to make difficult decisions to leave their districts so that they can pay bills. A couple of names come to mind, and I think we could probably put something together, and then stories of impacts to students. I guess I have no idea if we can put it together this quickly. I would love to, be out in front of it if the board will allow me to. But I actually think that maybe we can put together like a small video, like a 2 or 5 minute video that we post on YouTube that we email the legislators, kind of detailing some of these bullet points and just the absolute need that they accept some of these recommendations. I mean, this is it. It's 4th down and we're down 6 points. I mean, if we honest, this is the best shot that we have had to get a regionalization factor modification since I've started on this journey. And we really, 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 really need to do everything that we can to advocate for this. And, even our community out there, I'm looking at you guys. Hey, Grand Falls community, it's Uncle Carl. We desperately need you guys. We've talked ad nauseum about all of the negative impacts that we have financially in this district. We've obviously had lots of hard conversations about levies and kind of the trouble that the burden that is placed upon this community via levies and taxes, and how hard it is right now to put food on the plate and all of those things. And guess what? Uncle Carl agrees with you. There's no part of that I enjoy. But again, we make no bones about it. We compete with surrounding districts. It is a competition, nonetheless, a competition where our competitors are very happy to snatch up wonderful, passionate teachers who engage with students. They'd love nothing more than to bring them in, and we need to keep them in Granite. So we, community now, we have to be advocating about this. I'm going to put together some sort of letter that we can email. I can give you phone numbers and emails for our legislators, but this is our best opportunity to have some positive impact on this, and we cannot let it pass without the voice of people in Granite Falls that, just like me, want and desperately need and to give the absolute best education that we can to the students that we serve. And the good news of it is that no one is asking you to fulfill the tax burden for this. There was a surplus in the state this year, and no one's asking for their handout for these types of things. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I know I've said a lot of information. I guess I just don't want the seriousness in the moment to go undiscussed, and I would appreciate anyone's help helping me advocate for it. And by the way, labor unions, and all of these, obviously you've got a vested interest, and there's some obvious positive things for you here in these bills too. Come with us, help me, GFEA, PSE, please. Let's walk alongside each other, and let's do something here to really kind of see this through. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Director Kincaid, community report.
Yeah, so we had awesome national night out. The show and shine was amazing. If anybody went to that, it was a huge turnout. Coming up this Friday at Mountain Way, it's back to school night. Starts at 4 o'clock, I believe it is. The firefighters are having a barbecue. There's gonna be a gal there giving haircuts away, school supplies, all that kind of fun stuff. It's gonna be really fun. And then the farmer's market is having a back to school night. I believe it's Sunday, the 28th. I believe. And they're gonna be having all their, like, last year they had shoes and school supplies and all kinds of stuff there at the farmer's market. So I don't know what they have planned this year, but they're doing something. The community has been absolutely loving all the calendar updates, especially that one little thing that said, hey, teacher assignments are coming out on this day. Knowing that information has taken the stress off of so many people, and they've been telling me all about it and they love it. We still get the people looking for school supplies. They're on the district website, on the Facebook pages, but a fun trick somebody told me last year, just go to Google, type in Granite Falls School District school supplies, hit enter, and it will take you right there. So you can find your school supplies pretty easily. Just make sure it's not the Granite Falls School District in, it's like South Carolina, North Carolina. Yeah, so just make sure it's not that one. But that is a quick way to get your school supplies. Saved my bacon the other day when I forgot my list at home. So that's pretty much it.
Right, thank you.
Before we go to the next part, I'd like to make a motion that we add a new item under new business. It'll be item B, discussion of new purchasing policy.
Motion's been made. Can I get a second?
I second.
What, any discussion? I'm like,
Oh,
what is
sorry.
this? I mean,
Yeah, so thanks for asking that. So what I'd like to do is, and certainly not looking for any action other than just kind of a discussion and a consensus. Currently, we don't have any policy that requires board approval for a purchase of over a certain amount. Essentially, as long as it's in the budget it's as long as it's in the budget, it essentially can be done, without coming through the board. And one of the things I'd like to discuss, if it's the will of the board, and by the way, I should say Director Veach asked me to kind of spearhead this, is creating a policy, a financial policy that has some sort of trigger that requires purchase over a certain amount to come to circle back through the board so that we could, we've got better luck. It's pretty common in other districts have it, so.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. So a motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's been added as 6B. So next we have item 24. Do we have anybody signed up? this evening? 5A, unfinished business, second reading to amend policy 2161, special education and related services for eligible students. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion if there's no discussion that we accept the second reading to amend policy 2161, special education and related services for eligible students.
Oh, second.
That was a long one. Thank you. The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 5B, second reading to amend policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force. Any discussion?
I know there was discussion on this last meeting. Is everyone content? I'm not asking, I'm just wondering if answers or questions were answered.
To the best of the ability, I guess I'll speak up because I know I spoke some concerns, and in the meantime, I reached out and spoke to other colleagues and looked at kind of what other districts have as far as this policy, and a lot of other districts have this verbatim. It is a WASDA recommended policy. It's some that we have. So, there's still things that I guess give me a little bit of gripe, but I understand and recognize the need to have a good policy on this and the legal requirements of it too. So I'm going to vote to pass it.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we pass the second reading to amend policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force.
A second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 5C, second reading to adopt policy 5251, conflicts of interest. Discussion.
I just wanted to thank you for putting the red line and the corrections. These are the ones that are proposed by the legal, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Made it very easy to read, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a motion to accept the second reading to adopt policy 5251, conflict of interest.
I will second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I love hearing Peter.
I know. There's like a half-second delay. All right, item 6, new business, 6A, use of force report prepared by Beth Mills.
I had like a comment / question. This is the 2021 where we weren't in school.
The 2021 school year, yes. So
Okay.
the reports, so this is pulled directly from the way that we submit to OSPI, it comes from Cedars. And we report is in January. I'm not so sure why we report to you in August, but
Yeah.
that's when we're on the docket, and it ends up being previous years.
So, I mean, I'd just like to point out that for the time we had no students in school, we had 0 restraint issues.
Right.
I'm looking like, wow, 0. I'm like, oh, wait, 20 and 21. Well, yeah, they went into school. We nailed it. I did ask a question about the out of district. That's for the special education type scenarios, correct? Out of district.
Yes,
Okay.
and just an FYI, the way it is reported to the state be hard because the number is so low.
Mhm.
I don't want to say personally identifiable information.
Yes.
One of the students actually, the way it's reported to the state is listed in one of our other schools, but is actually an out of district student. So I reported it to you the way it really is as opposed to the way it went to us.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
I just have a question. So I heard you say you have this report in January, but we don't see it until August.
We submit in January, it's pulled from Cedars after the staff cleans up all of the data. I think this is just traditionally when we report to the board.
Okay. So maybe we can look at moving it.
It was pushed out.
Oh, so we were gonna do it. It was pushed out. Okay. Do you know off the top of your head, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you know what month we normally do it?
I remember
Find
doing
out about
earlier.
that.
I remember usually before the end of the year.
We can find out about that.
Yeah.
You-
I'm actually looking at the policy trying to figure it out.
oh, cool.
I was thinking past.
Board, any questions?
So when did we get the 21, 22?
While it was in January.
Okay, yeah. Beginning, I'm sorry, I was thinking and talking and reading at the same time. Annually by January 1st, thereafter, the district will summarize the written introduced reports and submit those to OSPI. The building administrator. I guess that doesn't necessarily say when it comes to the board. It just says when we're going to submit it to OSPI.
So can we ask Dr. Middleton or Melanie or somebody, I guess Dr. Middleton, to just let us know when it normally would come to us and if we could get it on an agenda that's closer to the January reporting time?
So I remember in the past it coming spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so, but
Yeah.
Melanie said that this one was pushed out, but if you could just let us know what month we normally see it. We think we see it in the spring normally.
Yeah, I've just found it. It doesn't say, it says superintendent will provide annual report to the board regarding the district's use of force. So,
It might have been pushed out because it was 0.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing to report.
I just really enjoyed seeing that it was all 0s and me realizing, oh yeah, there's no one in the school.
Yeah. It took me a minute too. I was like, is this a mistake? And then I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Looking at the reporting here. All right. Any other questions for this report. Okay, thank you. And the new item 6B, the discussion on the contract policy. We kind of just already had that discussion, didn't we?
Well, kind of, I guess.
I'm sorry, it's like, what do we?
Yeah, so I guess just not to go back through it, but so currently we don't have, and Marshall, if you don't, you certainly feel free to chime in here. We currently on our books don't have any policy that requires, as I said, board approval for essentially any purchase that's not necessarily in the budget or any purchase, whether it's in the budget or not. I'm sorry, that's a better way of saying that. We do have a policy that specifically says bidding practices, like over a certain amount, it has to be bid out, and a lot of that is directed by RCW and spending public money well, but nothing that allows us, the board, oversight to go, okay, well, sure, we have $150,000 in capital projects, and and we're saying we're going to spend 50 of that, and you're buying this $30,000 garbage truck or something along those lines, and yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I guess what I'm looking for is just for us to talk about it. If you guys share the concerns that Board Chair Veach and I have related to that, and want to get some more kind of measures in. I talked to Marshall about Marshall and tell me about maybe $10,000 being that limit. And one of the questions I asked Marshall is if he thought that would propose a significant hindrance to him or the process or anything like that. Marshall, do you mind just kind of talking through quickly what your feedback on that was?
Yeah, my thoughts were that our normal purchases, we may purchase some large technology bundles of Chromebooks. Those are fairly irregular and it probably wouldn't hinder the process at all. We do, and I think this is partially what it's really intended for too, is we do work with agencies to provide nursing, SLPAs, those kind of support personnel that we can't hire directly, that we may incur $150,000 a year to an agency for something that personnel related that normally we wouldn't come to you for approval for. So seeing those kind of things, and my feedback to Carl was, how would you like to see those kind of things? Because oftentimes we'll use an agency to staff, let's just say a couple of nurses, and that may cost us that contract may be for $100,000 for the entire year, but we may have 2 nurses for 3 months, and then whatever reason they aren't here anymore, and we may have 2 different nurses for the next 3 months. Is it when we come into an agreement with that vendor on a contract that you'd like to approve, or is it each time we transition to, because each one of those transactions could be $10,000, in a month. It's possible because they could bill us all on one invoice.
So that's something we would have to discuss and think about.
Yeah, and that's part of what I'm hoping the discussion is, because I like to do things in a very kind of, I hate surprises, and I know the board does. So I like to start with talking things out here, which gives me an idea, especially things where I'm going to give my time and really kind of pour into. So kind of get an idea of the consensus of the board where we want to go. And then I would write something up, obviously taking formats from other boards, policies and stuff like that. And then we could do a first reading and a second reading. My intent of this is not to encumber the process yet. 1 second, Mark, is to, this could maybe even drop into the consent agenda, but that we're in the loop on that stuff.
I was thinking, put in a consent agenda and look over it. So tonight, are you looking for we like the idea, want you to write a policy, and you want like a basic framework for what we're interested in?
Yeah, like the things of, hey, we want kind of like what Marshall was just talking about related to, we definitely want there to be some language that, I don't know, maybe it doesn't come in the consent agenda or something like that, or, hey, we really want this thing, or, hey, we think it should be $20,000, or we think it should be $5,000 or whatever. And the part that you're making about the kind of sparsing out sparsing out the contracts, what does that look like? Do we want him to come to us every time, or just, I guess, when you're signing the initial contract. I'm just processing this while I'm talking, Marshall. You're signing the initial contract in the beginning. Now, the payable could be sparsed out, but the contract gets signed
Right.
once, right?
Right.
So I think that's it. Yeah, before the contract is signed, that's when we want to be included in it.
Right.
And I,
Or even extended or whatever.
right.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, like, if we renew a contract, maybe it's somebody we contract with a year or something, or maybe it's a multi-year contract and then it comes up for renewal. If the terms change, right, if there's some sort of change in terms, I guess that might be a trigger for a re-review or, but I don't know. I mean, I don't want that to be like a low threshold. I don't know how to,
So I-
do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if the terms of the contract are changing in a way that would affect the finances, I guess.
Yeah, I guess for me, I mean, as far as what to look for tonight, I think this is a good policy to have. As far as a number, I would lean on Marshall for what he thinks is appropriate. But we would have final say, obviously, but I mean, 25,000 seems reasonable to me, because I could see, we need a copy machine breaks. They really want to prove to buy a new copy machine. We need one, it's broken. Those can cost upwards of $10,000-12,000. If they need it, they need it. So that's why I think I wouldn't want too low, but I wouldn't want too high. So I might 25,000 or so. That's just, again, without talking with Marshall, but just giving you my thoughts.
As I think about like your example of we have two nurses and for X contract, and then there's different nurses fulfilling the same contract. We would see the change of names on the personnel report, right? I don't think we need to see a different contract just because the people fulfilling it are different.
Maybe. If that happened, would you submit a new personnel report for change of names for agency nurses?
Yeah, so we would see that there was, I mean, so the cost of the personnel, like the hourly rate or billable rate is
Right.
the same. So I don't think we would need to see that. And we would see the change of people on the personnel report. So I don't think we would need to see it in that case. Just, I don't know. So
I
yeah,
think the couple comments. I think that $10,000 is actually reasonable. We meet with the board generally twice a month, except for during the summer. So I don't think that would hinder us, but maybe there's a stipulation in there about some kind of emergency situation that might arise.
yep. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing, I guess I just want to make sure that we're on the same page is because there's kind of 2 points to, purchasing. There's goods and then there's contracted services. So I guess I just want to make sure that there's consensus from the board that we want to hit both of those or just one of them or.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think,
Especially because the contract and servicing gets so high.
yeah, goods and services, I think, yeah.
And honestly, just, I don't know, I can't speak for the board, but I'd be hard pressed to deny a contract service. I just want to be aware of it. I mean, if he feels necessary, I want to be aware of it, unless it's totally something outlandish. I mean, yeah. It's just my opinion. That's not a board.
Dr. M, I hopefully you're still with us. I want to make sure you're
He
included in
has
the
his hand up.
conversation.
I was
Oh,
just gonna call on him.
sorry.
Yeah,
Of course, this is a new item being introduced tonight. In this conversation, I, of course, haven't had a chance to talk with Marshall, but I would say 10,000 is extremely low.
And prefer something higher than that.
Did we lose you, or that's just
yeah.
where you ended?
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
And yeah,
So I'm used to, a much higher amount,
we lost you again, Dr. M.
Well, I think, board consensus, if we're interested, and you can meet with Dr. and get his thoughts on it. if we
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, so there'll be a first and second reading. Maybe we can start at the 10 and then move it. I mean, the kind of thought that I had is that obviously, I mean, this is a policy that can be revised. So if let's say we did approve the 10, and Dr. M, raise your hand again if I'm interrupting you and you're ready to speak again. But if for some reason we do approve the 10 and that becomes cumbersome, we could certainly revise it. I mean, it's obviously the board has that will. I'm not saying I'm necessarily married to the 10, but and obviously Dr. M has some time to talk to Marshall and stuff, but Maybe we could start there and see where we can go to from there, if that's the consensus of the board.
Yeah,
I can't back up in this chair.
I know there's a,
I'm over here now.
Dr. Middleton, I can't tell, can you hear us?
Maybe
So we'll-
sampling some of the other
Yeah.
districts, what their policy is.
Yep, exactly. I know,
Maybe exempting categories like Chromebooks or something. I don't know.
are you back? Josh?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Welcome back.
So I got the consensus. Basically, you were saying you would like the 10,000 is low. You would like for something bigger, larger than that. Were you okay with kind of my feedback, or you think we need to start higher? Oh, gosh. Did we lose you?
Well, I mean, you got consensus, you could talk to them offline.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Josh, if you can hear us, we'll take this conversation offline with you, but certainly you'll be part of the conversation. And your thoughts and your experience, we'll take that into consideration as well, for sure. So if you can hear us, that's what I want you to know, is that we're working on it and we plan to work on this together.
Didn't hear you say that.
Oh, you didn't hear me say
Just
that?
FYI.
Okay, well, I will.
You'll tell them in person.
I know, it's on YouTube for the replay as well. Okay, I'll certainly let you know. All right. Director Ledoux, do you have any comments or concerns?
Yeah, just with that, I think, right, I'll be curious to hear what other districts, like the specifics of other districts, right? The devil's always in the details, because we don't want to hinder Marshall or Dr. Middleton in keeping the district being a well-oiled machine. However, we also don't want death by 1,000 cuts when there's, 17 $9,950 purchases just running through or something. So we just want to make sure that we're following suit with other successful districts.
Yep, thank you. Great point.
I'll get something together.
Thank you. All right, we're to item 7, consent agenda. I noticed that there was an addition to the consent agenda.
There were a few.
Any discussion?
No. Where are the additions?
They're added into the agenda under.
Oh, they're already there?
7, yeah, there's
7J.
7J. Yep. So
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion. Actually, wait, Carl will look at it real quick.
Got it. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with the additions.
thank you. Motion's been made. Can I get a second?
A second?
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
So now, are we done?
Well, no, you gotta talk about the executive session and no action.
I'm sorry. So we have an executive session after this to,
The purpose of the executive session.
it is, I'm gonna make sure I say it right. The superintendent, executive session to discuss the superintendent's performance plan. And there is no planned action.
We still need to estimate how long.
Oh.
I feel 30 minutes.
I was
personally.
gonna say 30 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, so executive session for 30 minutes. We'll take a 10-minute or 5-minute, I don't know.
I'm junior.
I'm good.
All right, well, we'll take a 5-minute recess and then we'll plan on 30-minute executive session.
Did you state no action? We take
And yeah, and no planned action. Is that all? All right.
adjourned at 7.
Adjourn at 7:00.